If you're new to the FNaF community and you want to play the games themselves, you're probably wondering, should I play the games in release order or chronological order? And you should probably play them in release order, but I know you want to enjoy the story in the chronological order, and I'm the same way. I played Red Dead Redemption 2 before Red Dead Redemption 1, so I definitely understand. But with that comes another question. What is the chronological order for the Five Nights at Freddy's games? If you're new here, you might not know that the timeline is heavily debated. So if you go on the internet, you'll see multiple different answers for the chronological order. Some people say to play FNaF 4 first, some people say to play FNaF Sister Location first. Today, I thought I'd help you guys figure out which order you should play the games in. I'll just tell you right now, don't play either FNaF 4 or Sister Location first. And also, I just want to say right now, I'm talking about just the main games, not any of the spin-offs. You can figure that out yourself, I guess. I'm also talking about just the main gameplay, not any of the mini games, because then this video would be very convoluted. So with that, let's just get into our first game, which is... First game you want to play is actually FNaF 2, since it's the earliest game in the timeline, obviously. Since it takes place in 1987, and none of the other games take place any earlier than this, despite what some people would have you believe. We know this game takes place in 1987 because it literally says it. And then after that, the next game you want to play is FNaF 1. FNaF 1 takes place in either 1992 or 1993, it doesn't really matter. The reason people think it takes place in 1992 is because it lines up more with the FNaF 2 paycheck. In that game, Jeremy's work week lasts from Sunday till Thursday, so FNaF 1, it could be the same thing. 1993 comes from the idea that Scott didn't have a set date when making this game, and most likely just went with what the community thought at the time, which is what I think the game takes place in 1993. It doesn't really matter though, since either way it takes place after FNaF 2, but before all the rest of these games. So from here is where it gets a little more complicated for these next two games I'm going to talk about, because we don't really know for sure when they happen. There's a set point in the timeline for FNaF 3, and both these games take place before that or after it. So I'm just going to say what I currently believe. So I think the next game you should play after FNaF 1 is actually FNaF Sister Location. Alright, since the timeline placement for this game is heavily debated, with some people saying it happens before FNaF 2, let me explain why I'm placing it here. So first off, we know this game has to take place at least after FNaF 2 because of something Mike says in the game.
They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
This line implies that Mike expected it to be recognized by them, who is most likely the souls of the children who were in the original animatronics, found themselves in the fun times. So that places it at least after FNaF 2, if Mike is Jeremy or Fritz, which is not confirmed. So if he isn't either of them, it has to be after FNaF 1. And I just want to say right now, no, the odor doesn't matter, since Phone Guy says himself that the animatronics smell awful.
The idea at first was to repair them. They even started retrofitting them with some of the newer technology, but they were just so ugly, you know, and the smell.
So Fritz tampering with the animatronics would, make him smell bad. Also, Follow Me has to happen before Sister Location, and that has to happen after FNaF 1, because of the fact that the animatronic shells in FNaF 3 are the same as they were after being destroyed in Follow Me, and also the endoskeletons of the classics were most likely taken so that the MCI could be injected in the fun times. Also, in the Steam description of FNaF 3, it says that only the animatronic shells were found, not the endoskeletons, so obviously that had to be taken, so they couldn't be used. They couldn't be rebuilt to be used in FNaF 1, so that means it has to be after that. Also, the building in Follow Me is obviously abandoned, so that places it, after FNaF 1. And no, the whole button thing doesn't matter. In the Follow Me minigames, Bonnie and Freddy have buttons when they shouldn't have that many. This does not matter. Spring Bonnie doesn't have a button either, but Spring Trap does. So that just proves, it doesn't really matter. So that's why I'm placing Sister Location after FNaF 1. The reason I'm placing it before FNaF 3 is because it just doesn't make sense for Mike to wait so many years after William's disappearance to go do the events of this game. Unless Follow Me happens like the week before FNaF 3, but that's unlikely. Then after that, I think the next game you should play is FNaF 4. The reason I'm placing it here is because we know it has to be at least after FNaF 1, since Phone Guy's Night 1 phone call can be heard in this game. And I'm placing it after Sister Location because of the survival logbook. We don't know when the logbook takes place, or if it's even a real thing in universe, but it has to be after Sister Location. And in the logbook, Mike draws Nightmare Fredbear under a section asking about recent dreams. Although, it really doesn't matter when you play this game. You can play this game before Sister Location or after FNaF 3 and nothing really changes, but I'm just placing it here. This is just where I think it probably takes place, most likely. And then after that, the next game you want to play is FNaF 3. This game takes place in either 2022 or 2023, depending on when FNaF 1 takes place, or 2017 or 2015. Yeah, there's actually a debate about when this game takes place. With some people saying, you know, it's 30 years after FNaF 1, after that Freddy's closed. So some people argue it could be 30 years after the closure of the 1985 Freddy's, or 30 years after the FNaF 2 Freddy's. Mostly due to something in the survival logbook, but I'm not getting into all of that right now because it doesn't really matter at all. Me personally, I think it happens 2023. Then after that, you won't play FNaF 6. It's after all the other games because characters from those games appear in states that they couldn't have been in until after the games they're in, and also it's confirmed to be after all those games. So this game most likely happens in 2023 because of HRY 223. And while 223 probably doesn't mean 2023 in universe, it's definitely supposed to be a clue for us, as 2023 was already the most commonly believed date in the community for when FNaF 3 took place. And if Scott wanted to imply it took place at a different date, he would have made it HRY 215 or HRY 217. And then after that, you want to play UCN. We know UCN is after FNaF 6 because characters from that game appear in this game, and this game acts as an epilogue for the original saga. This game also probably takes place over the course of multiple years. And then after this, if you want to, it's not confirmed if it's canon or not, but you could read the Stitch line. I personally think it's canon, but it's not confirmed, and it's not really necessary for the story. But yeah, I would read that. And then from here, it's actually easy to play the game's chronological order because, well, it's the release order. The release order is the chronological order. Help 1 and its Curse of Dreadbear DLC take place after FNaF 6 because plushies of Scrap Baby are in the game, a character from FNaF 6. Then after that, you want to play Security Breach. Security Breach takes place after Help Wanted because of a secret in Help Wanted showing the construction of the Pizzaplex, the place where this game takes place. And also the main antagonist and protagonist from the last game are in this game, but they'll hold off on the DLC at this point. Also, I would say after Security Breach, I would read the Tales from the Pizzaplex books because they're kind of necessary to understand what the fuck is happening in this game. But if you don't want to, then you can find summaries on YouTube. After you read Tales, play Help Wanted 2, since Help Wanted 2 happens after Security Breach, but it takes place before the events of Ruin, because the events of this game lead up to that DLC. And then after that, you can play Ruin. You know, that's the current final point in the timeline chronologically. Like I said earlier, I just played them in release order, but if you don't want to, then there you go. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, why don't you share it with someone else who wants to play these games in chronological order. If you need any help with the story, trying to figure it out, why don't you watch some of my videos? I already have videos on the lore on my channel. I plan on making more in the future, so you should watch them. It's like an investment, right? And comment if you disagree with any of my placements. And while you're there, why don't you subscribe? Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.